Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. As you can tell, Brum is not with us tonight. He is off on a business venture in Norman. So good job to him, doing big shit, I guess, in work. That's fun. But Jose and I are joined by 2024 elite defensive end, best player in Oklahoma, Danny Okoye. Danny, we appreciate you coming on. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I forgot to mention in the intro, fellow Heat fan, Danny Okoye.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So Danny, we'll get it started, man. We're a Sooner-based podcast. We know you're as I mentioned at the top of the show, an elite level talent, but you just visited Oklahoma. Kind of just talk to us about that visit, if you will. How'd it go? Was it fun? Just all about the visit.
Man, it was really fun. Like hanging out with all the coaching staff and stuff. Coach Chavis was cool. Coach Venables was cool. Coach Bates wasn't able to be there, but I'm sure if he had, the energy would have been through the roof. Regardless, it was still an awesome visit. Got to take the tour, talk to some of the student body, talk to the rest of the staff. Had a cool little photo shoot and had a tour on the golf cart. Was awesome. It really opened my eyes. Saw that all the powerhouse are going to be in a couple years.
So what, I guess, changed leading up to that visit? Because it seemed like from the outside looking in, you were looking elsewhere for the most part leading up to this visit on, when was it, Friday, right?
Yeah.
What was a big thing that made you, I guess, open up that opportunity and the communication there?
Well, it was really because of the season they just had last season. It knocked the interest down a little bit. But when I started actually going the research into Coach Venables and Coach Chavis and the record that OU has had, it became pretty obvious that the season that they had last year was kind of an irregularity. It was an anomaly, really. It's not a normal thing that happens. So I decided to rethink my decision on cutting off the communication, and so I just reopened it with Coach Chavis and made like a last minute visit because I didn't even know I was going to be in Norman until a couple of days before. So I just let him know that I was going to be in town and I'd be interested in coming and visiting, and then it was up from there.
So has Coach Chavis kind of been your lead recruiter as far as with OU goes throughout this process?
Coach Chavis and all the keyboard warriors in my comment section.
I'm sure you got a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like? I'm sure that sometimes it's annoying with people getting in your mentions all the time, but we had Joseph on a couple weeks ago, I think. Joseph Jonah. I'm not sure if you guys have ever been on visits together or have gotten in contact, but he mentioned he loves the Twitter and interaction on social media, but I can't imagine that's everyone.
Well, I mean, it has its ups and its downs. I mean, at first it was a little overwhelming, how extra the OU fans are sometimes, but I got used to it, learned to appreciate it. They're an interesting group, but it grows after a little while.
All right, Danny. So I got kind of a different one. So I'm looking at your numbers. I'm watching your tape. Jumps off the page. You're all in the backfield. You're sacking quarterbacks, tackles for loss, forced fumbles, interceptions, all that. But you also played a little bit of running back, caught the ball a little bit. Also, we saw a punt return touchdown, which I think is crazy for a defensive end to be doing. Should we be expecting to see you return college punts wherever you decide to play college football?
Definitely not, but definitely not returning. But you may see me on the offensive side of the ball a little bit. Not too frequently, of course, because that's not my area of specialty. But, it may be some little sprinkles of a couple yards here and there.
That's interesting. So, are college coaches kind of talking about that with you, like playing both sides a little bit and maybe a little bit at tight end, like maybe a red zone package or something?
Yeah, I've definitely had more than a few coaches talk about having me in a few offensive schemes. Not really because it's what I'm good at, but I think it's just my physical attributes that would, help the game a little bit. Just the same way that we do in my high school group. I specialize on defense, but if we need something on offense, I'll be able to get us where we need to go. So if they need something from me, I'll be able to deliver it, or I'll do my best. So
yes, sir.
It kind of reminds me of J.J. Watt. He obviously a defensive guy, but he was definitely thrown in there for the Texans a few times for some touchdowns. Are there guys that college ranks or pro that you try to emulate your game after?
Or like you said, the Watt brothers, they're definitely up there. Um, I like them for my defensive mentality, and my all around football mentality. I like George Pickens just because he's a bully and he's part of my language, but he's an asshole. And I mean, I like to act that way too sometimes. I'm a nice guy, but once the helmet gets on, it's a different story.
Yeah, no, I like that. So, talking about your recruiting process as a whole, is like for OU, is the move to the SEC that's coming up in a year, is that something that you think would help OU in your process at all? Like, do you want to play in the SEC or a big conference like that?
I mean, if you look at the record, OU has been beating SEC teams for a long time. I don't think it's gonna be a big shift, but I don't think it's gonna be a shattering change to the program. I personally think that my style of play is more suited for the SEC, just because of the higher level of aggression, I guess you would say. So I'm not too daunted by it. I think it would actually help the program, give them more accolades. And if I do decide to go there, I think the accolades will come to me as well, especially with the higher level of competition that is going to be brought to the table.
So I kind of want to talk about your high school and I guess get your thoughts. Do you feel like you were under recruited for a while or maybe overlooked being at with a football team that's for my understanding all of you guys are homeschooled, right?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. We're not all homeschoolers per se. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of us are kids who came from 6A, 5A programs. For me, it was COVID um, that really not put me into the homeschool area. But um, COVID knocked me out of Jinx, and then I went online, and I just decided to run with that. That's been the case with a few of my teammates. Some people got kicked out. Some people just decided to leave, and I mean, yeah, I think it did put a little dent in my recruiting, but I don't think it. Judging from how it ended up, I don't think it did too much damage.
Yeah, no, the offer list is pretty strong. So I talked about your game. Obviously, the stats are fantastic. I feel like your size is fantastic to play on that defensive line. But what area of your game specifically do you feel like you might need to improve a little bit before the college level?
I definitely need to expand my arsenal on pass rush moves. I've been working with some D line coaches on that, hoping to show it off a little bit in this upcoming season. But wherever I go, I feel like it's going to be pretty easy for me to make that work. I got a good background in you know combat sports, so I feel like violent hands is going to be pretty easy to pick up on. I've been relying on my speed a little bit too much, so I realized that's not really going to work at the next level because everybody's going to be fast. So once that once that next level switch happens, I feel like I'm going to need a deeper bag to reach into. So
Just know, like I am in the Tulsa area. Like if you want to do some weight training or something, I might be able to help you out.
say less.
Talking about violent hands made me think again of another great NFL guy, Aaron Donald. Just thinking of the video with the knives. Not sure if you're venturing into that kind of dangerous territory, but
Not that extreme.
what are you, I guess, looking forward to the most going into this summer and your recruiting as a whole, and by the time you actually come to that decision, what excites you about playing college ball in this entire process?
Man, really just the different level of that the amount of things that are asked from you, really. Because in high school, you have a bad game, but it's a bad game. In college, it impacts the program, it impacts the college itself, it impacts the whole program as a whole. Not just you had a bad night and then you go back and do some homework. So I'm really looking forward to having a stadium of people who are looking up to you to bring their college team to the next level or whatever. That's gonna be fun. I can't wait for the scream of fans. Really, that's it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So we talk about the 2024 class a lot on the show, and specifically that defensive line because there are so many dudes in this class along the D line. So, do you talk to guys like a David Stone or Williams Nwaneri or some of these other elite prospects about teaming up, playing with them somewhere?
I mean, sometimes I'll say something here or there in their Twitter comments or something, but I'm really I'm competitive, so I don't really take too much time to worry about what other people are doing. I saw Stone went to Oregon. That was cool. I don't really care. He can do what he wants.
I
I'm not
love that.
that type of guy. So they're gonna do what they want to do. I'm gonna do what I want to do. It is what it is.
It's a great mentality. It's the best answer we've had to that question from anybody, I think.
For sure. So I want to dig back into the high school thing because I was trying to learn a little bit more about Noah and figure out like the competition you guys play. You left Jinx. Do you guys compete against 6A schools still, or are you competing against different level?
I know a couple years ago we played Memorial. I think they're a 5A school. Are they 5A?
I think so.
Memorial a couple years ago. We play Kiefer. They're a 3A. We play Metro Christian about every year. And then we have our own homeschool teams that we travel and play against, homeschool teams from around the country. We played Tomball last year, and Tomball beats a couple 4A and 5A schools down in Texas almost every year. So a lot of people like to say we play some trash competition, but some of the competition we played will definitely have them rethink that, So,
Yeah.
People just don't know yet.
They don't know yet.
Exactly.
Time to know. But I feel like that's going to change, especially as I've been trying to put homeschoolers on the map just with what I've accomplished in such a short amount of time. I feel like it's paying off.
Yeah. So while you're going through this process, you got a long way before you have to make any sort of decision. Is maybe looking at like playing time right away. Is that something that I guess, are you trying to find a spot where you can maybe play right away, or is that something that matters to you? You're going to go in there and beat anybody out anyway. Do you mind taking a redshirt year? Just talk about that.
If I have to redshirt, I will. I prefer not to. I'd rather go to a school where they can develop me because I'm enrolling in January. So I hope between January and football season, I'll be able to develop myself enough to get a spot where I won't have to redshirt. But if that doesn't happen, I'm not going to be that guy who's like, oh, I have to play this year, coach, or else I'm leaving. I'm not going to do all that. So I'd hope I don't have to. But if the decision is made that I do have to, I'm not going to have too much of a problem with
it. And you kind of alluded to it. It sounds like you're not going to commit to somewhere you don't see yourself being there for at least 3-4 years. Does the transfer portal at all been something that you looked at and be like, well, if it's absolutely necessary, you're just like, I don't really want to enter the transfer portal and I'm going to be wherever I'm going to be to impact that team?
I mean, I'm the whole reason I'm trying to take the shooting journey kind of slow is so that I don't have to rely on the transfer portal. But I do know that sometimes something that looks good right now might not look good actually at that spot. So I do have to hit the transfer portal, which I hope I don't. It's not going to be too much. But the whole reason I'm not committing until like December or November, and I haven't taken any official visits yet. It's just so I can take it slow, and I won't have to, all those people who commit and then decommit and then commit and then decommit, or same thing, but enrolling and then transferring and then transferring and then transferring. I just don't want to be that guy. So if I have to transfer because the program isn't what I thought it would be, or a coach leaves that would hard or something like that, I'll hit the transfer. But if it's not a drastic measure that needs to be taken, I'm gonna stay on that.
Yeah. What are your hopes and expectations for your senior season?
We gonna find out. I'm not gonna speak on that. I'm gonna let my actions speak for themselves.
All right, I like it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I think you might be the guy that is going to get OU fans excited. I mean, you're already talking about how they're in your mentions all the time. They might be in your mentions a little bit more after they hear what you said today.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, some positive stuff for sure. Yeah, man, you're a dog. I think you're probably my favorite interview that we've had on the show. I think I like the way you are, the way you carry yourself, your mentality. But now we can dive into some food kind of questions, which I know you probably didn't expect coming on the show, but sometimes we do that. Yeah. The question that we had on the Trav show host, what was it? We got to start with that.
Oh, wings.
Ranch or blue cheese on wings?
Ranch.
That's unanimous.
And then it's drums or flats.
Drums or flats.
Planet, you need to leave. Blue cheese is disgusting.
Jose's a big blue cheese guy.
I'm gonna disagree with that, but
you gotta go.
when I was younger, ranch all the way. I think it was like 25 years old. Someone said, "Try this shit."
That blue cheese.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% with you. And then, so I guess one more thing I want to know too. So, you mentioned playing in front of the screaming fans. It's something that you're very excited about. As a player, as a competitor, we've never been on that stage, as you might imagine. I do it all the time in Madden. I'm crazy. But, like, do you think it's going to be more fun for you to play in front of 80,000 screaming fans on your side at a home game, or to go on the road, like, say, to play against, like, at Alabama or something, with everybody against you and kind of, like, trying to make that place quiet?
Definitely on the road. Like I said, I like George the asshole. I'm an asshole. So, if I get attacked on in the way, I'll go straight to the other opposing fans. I'm like, what's going on? I'm a little street guy, that's just how I roll. So yeah, I like being a little savage sometimes. But I definitely do love the little families. All the support and stuff. I like laughing at the place too.
I love it, man. Thank you so much, dude. This is a lot of fun. We'll have to get you back on at some point if you don't mind, because this was a blast. And I think me and Brum might be in the area for some games next season. So we expect to see like at least 3 sacks if we're there.
Pop out.
All right, boss. Well, thanks again for joining, everyone. Follow Danny on Twitter, Instagram. We'll link that stuff down below. Thank him. Don't be a dickhead in his mentions. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and we'll just see you guys next time.
Best of luck in the process, by the way, as well. We hope it's Oklahoma. If it's not, you've got a fan in both of us, and I know Brum's a fan too, so we appreciate you coming on, man. Best of luck.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Yes, sir.
All right. Just me and Bunnett now. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview. I know me and Brandon did. But for the rest of this video, probably for like 10 minutes, we're going to talk some recruiting updates. Taylor Tatum announced some officials that he's taking, and Oklahoma made it into top lists for 2 very good interior offensive linemen. So let's go ahead and get into it. Newly number 1 ranked running back and on 24/7's recruiting board, Taylor Tatum is taking 3 official visits, 1 to USC, 1 to Oklahoma, and 1 to Michigan in that order. I believe it's USC first weekend of June, Oklahoma for Champion Barbecue, and Michigan the weekend following that. Obviously, this is one that Oklahoma's been in for quite some time. I don't know, it seemed like Oklahoma was the heavy favorite for a while. Then as the recruiting cycle went on, USC became a player. Michigan, if you look on 247, is the favorite to land the number 1 running back in the 2024 class. Brandon, what do you think about Taylor Tatum? Do you really think that those predictions are right at this moment in time? And what can he do for Oklahoma?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think they're the most we have to lean on at the moment, so I feel like Oklahoma's a little bit behind in this battle. James Peoples was obviously my favorite running back of the class. That didn't go our way. Went to Ohio State. That's another one that looked pretty promising for a while that ended up shifting ways. But now if Oklahoma can come back in this battle and beat out Michigan and USC and for Taylor Tatum services, I think he is very serviceable. You look at his numbers. The dude had 33 or he had 1,891 yards, so almost 1,900 yards on 227 attempts, so about 8.3 a carry, but also 33 touchdowns on the ground in one season. And then he also had 12 catches, 3 of which went for touchdowns. So the dude scored a total of 36 touchdowns. That's pretty damn good on 250 touches total. That's pretty good average there too. The dude's an athlete, runs track and field, plays baseball. I think he can bring a lot to Oklahoma, especially with DeMarco Murray as a head coach. The dude has blazing speed, can do it all as a running back. His numbers jump off the page. Again, I think Oklahoma's just a little bit behind in this battle, but if you can come back and beat out the likes of USC and Michigan, we're going to be pretty good there with Taylor Tatum.
Agreed. And it is interesting with this running back position. I feel like we've been talking about this pretty much since the 2023 cycle ended. Oklahoma seems to be in a really good spot with a lot of very talented running backs, but none of them have nothing's come of it as of yet. We're heading into the summer, which is really a big part in recruiting for everyone. But think back to January, we were talking about Jeremy Payne, really talented running back, Caden Durham, Taylor Tatum, Stacey Gage, James Peoples. Like, we've talked about a lot of running backs, and I think most of them are in the top 10 on most recruiting platforms for the position, and yet Oklahoma hasn't closed on any of them. I'm curious, is it going to be a rush to get them in once the first one commits? Because we were potentially going to get the in-state product in Xavier Robinson beginning of May, but he pushed back his commitment to sometime in the future. I don't think that's actually been announced. Do you think Oklahoma might tell them, hey, hold your horses? We want to get the bigger guys first.
I don't know about all that. I feel like that's not an approach Oklahoma would take, but I don't know. I still think Oklahoma's going to lead for Xavier Robinson and still probably end up with his commitment. But, I mean, you're right. We've talked about a lot of really good running backs, felt good about a lot of really good running backs, but at some point we got to stop having these running backs go on dates with us and lock it up, make it official, instead of just dating us and going with somebody else like James Peoples did, and, some of these other kids who are still uncommitted. Caden Durham's still out there. I think most of those guys that you mentioned are still out there. But, at some point, I would like to see this start to hit on some of these, but I feel like we will. It's a matter of time. I'm not overly concerned.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this recruiting cycle has gone so far, because if, early spring, late winter, there was a ton of crystal balls coming in for running backs, for defensive linemen. And you haven't really seen a ton of commitments, but they're coming soon. It's just the summertime. Can't come soon enough at this point.
And I feel like we were, and I could be wrong because I don't really remember exactly when the 23 class was obviously very special. A top 5 class in year one. I think that spoiled us a little bit, and I think by this time last year, we had, a little bit more commitments than we currently do. So people start to hit the panic button because it's not rolling in right away. It's just, again, I think it's just a matter of time. It's a different year. It's a different recruiting cycle.
It is. It definitely is. So let's move on to the next guy. We made a top 5 for 4-star offensive lineman Jason Zandamela. I think I said that right. From Clearwater, Florida. Currently ranked in the top 115, looks like 111th overall in the 2024 class. Number 5 interior offensive lineman in the cycle. I think it's fair to say, and we say it almost every time, Coach B is a guy that's going to have a fighting chance in almost every single offensive line recruiting. Jason, impressive guy. I'm going to let Brandon go on because he found some interesting tidbits about him and his football career so far.
No, so Coach B, obviously, I agree with you. I bring it up with every offensive line prospect. I think Coach B is genuinely the best college football coach in the country for offensive line, and I think there's no better place to go than Oklahoma. But with Jason, it's really, really interesting because the kid didn't even move to the States until October of 2020. He's from Mozambique. Didn't start playing football till his sophomore year of high school. So when you consider he didn't start playing football till his sophomore year of high school, with you mentioning him borderline top 100 player in the class according to 24/7, top 5 interior offensive lineman for a dude who just started playing this game is really, really scary. That reminded me of By Job, another guy who kind of picked up the game late and blossomed and got all the huge offers. Obviously, he went to Michigan State. You hope Oklahoma going out with Jason, because the kid, I feel like he has untapped potential to be this good and to be this highly ranked, playing at this high of a level, receiving the offers that he has after playing football for a year or two, moving to the States in 2020. This thing's brand new to him. He's a rugby player originally, and for him to just pick this game up so quickly and be so dominant at it, with just that kind of raw talent that he clearly has, I think you mix that raw talent in with the mind of Coach Bill Bedenbaugh. If he does pick Oklahoma, man, that sky's the limit there. I don't know necessarily if he'll be ready to play college football by year one, just because he is so damn new to this game. But dude, if you give him a year or two, maybe by a sophomore year, maybe redshirts a year or whatever, redshirt freshman year, I think the dude can be scary good. He's, I think, again, just untapped potential there when you consider he just started playing the game as a sophomore, just moved to the States in October 2020. He's a rugby player. Like, that's what he grew up doing. And for him to be doing this at a high level that quickly is pretty scary.
Yep, I would agree with that. And the rest of his top five is made up of Miami, Florida State, USC, and Georgia. So you've got some pretty good competition there for his services. If you just look at what has been produced from these schools and the offensive line coaches, Coach B is, you can argue for number one, might be number two, just depending on who you ask, because Georgia has, they are back-to-back national champions, so you kind of got to give them respect for that, and they have enormous human beings playing for them in the trenches. Like Oklahoma, we should have a chance. He is currently favored to be a Seminole and stay in the state of Florida.
And that's all he's known since being in the States. I think that is, I think, a huge disadvantage in this situation. It's not all the time a big thing, coming out of state or whatever. It's like we always recruit well out of Florida, but I feel like with a kid like Jason, who's literally from Mozambique, moved to the States in 2020, he's only been here 3 years, and all he's known is Florida. I feel like it's a little tougher there. That's just me, I guess, being negative here, but to me that makes it a little tougher. It's always known since his little experience in the country.
No, I would agree. It does seem it's going to be an uphill battle because of that, and I think you hit it right on the head. Like, it's going to be tough to pull him out of the state of Florida because of that being really what he knows and where he's doing high school football, probably where his family is right now. Maybe wants to stay a little bit closer. Like, you can't blame the kid if that's where he ends up going. But again, Coach B is going to give Oklahoma a chance here. Really, maybe he's got to be a little bit like a Danny situation, where he doesn't really know. He might have not really known a lot about what Oklahoma has done outside of, looking at some edits online and looking at guys like Trent Williams and Lane Johnson, Creed Humphrey, Orlando Brown, do well in the league. And maybe on a visit here, I assume he's taking an official visit this summer. Haven't checked in on that quite yet. But being that we're in his top five, I would assume that's happening. Maybe on a visit, he learns a lot more about the history of offensive linemen at Oklahoma, and why it's a spot where maybe it comes down to Oklahoma versus Florida State or Georgia. I really think Florida State and Georgia seem to be the two schools where you'll need to beat out here. You can't really. It's hard to compete with back-to-back national champions in any recruiting battle, and the Florida situation. Coach Bates might be someone that could be important in this recruitment, since he does have all those ties to and connections in the state of Florida. But Coach B is going to do everything he can to cure this guy.
Agreed.
And the last guy, 4-star, again also interior offensive lineman, Isaiah Garcia from the state of Utah, puts Oklahoma in his top 10. The rest of the list, let me refresh my memory here. Sorry about that. Includes Nebraska, UCLA, Miami, Alabama, USC, Oregon, Washington, Stanford, and Utah. I believe at the moment he is favored to go to Utah, be a Ute for his college career. And after last season, winning the Pac-12 championship, hard to blame him staying at home with the school that is showing that they can win their conference and potentially even compete for a spot in the college football playoffs. I think for the interior of the offensive line, not only
So he's listed as a tackle.
I know he's listed as a tackle,
Okay,
but
is
if
he
you look
playing?
at on 3, he's listed as an interior offensive lineman.
Okay,
So
and you can play both.
just blank overall offensive line guy. If you look at what Oklahoma's situation is in the interior of the line for both Jason and Isaiah, it might be a good idea to really look into playing at Oklahoma, because after this year you have McCade Mettauer leaving, potentially Andrew Rame leaving, but you might have his predecessor already in Joshua Bates. Then the other guard spot is still unknown. It might be Caleb Schaefer, the transfer this season, or it might be a young guy that can step in. Then there's always, these guys, offensive linemen, they're taking hits every single play. So you kind of just assume that they're going to get banged up and hurt for a game or two throughout the season. Obviously, that's not what you hope, but you just have to expect that. In the interior of the offensive line, Oklahoma has a good opportunities there for these guys to really entertain. What are your thoughts on him?
I definitely agree. I think that's something I didn't even really consider until you brought it up, but I agree. I asked Danny tonight, if he's looking at something where he could maybe potentially start right away, look at the other guys on the roster. It seems like that's not something that he's going to factor into his decision after getting to talk to him for a little bit. But no, I definitely think that Garcia and Jason will have the chance, I think, if they commit to Oklahoma, to be, if not a year one player, a year two player, if they take all the coaching and absorb it, because, you're right. That is going to be an area of plenty of opportunity, I guess, is the best way to say that after this upcoming season. So I think guys will look at that too, and then they have to see there's a chance to have an immediate impact on their college team. That's got to be something that's enticing. Isaiah Canyon's tape is fun. The dude's 6'5", 280, but moves like a tight end. He's great in the run game. He's got really good hands in the pass blocking game. Again, it just goes back to Coach B for me. I think Coach B with any of these guys, Isaiah Garcia is 6'5", 280, and he's about to be a senior in high school. So that dude could be playing at 300 plus by the time he's at the collegiate level. At 6'5", it's fun. But I think if he does get that big, I feel like it's gonna be tough to play inside for a dude who's 6'5", 280. So maybe for Garcia's sake, if he's 6'5", 300 plus by the time he's playing college ball, he might be a tackle. So for him, he might have a little more competition. You got guys like Caden Green there and some other dudes. But again, I feel like he can. I don't know. If Coach B wants him, I believe in it, and the dude can clearly play.
Yeah, I agree. It's really just going to come down to, really for both of those guys, can you pull them out of their region? Because one guy seems to be heavily favoriting Utah, and then the rest of his schools are kind of in the western part of the country: Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. And then the other guy that really just knows Florida from what we know of him, going to be hard to pull him out of that situation potentially. So it's going to be an uphill battle for both, but it's not one that can't be overcome, especially by the staff. We've seen them hit some buzzer beaters with recruitment over the last year. This
little recruiting segment we just did feels like the all three kids we talked about, I feel like, are going to be uphill battles. Most of the time I feel pretty good about the kids we talk about. Good chance that you lands them. With these ones, I feel like we're going to be fighting back in the fourth quarter for these kids' commitments, as you alluded to.
Mm-hmm. You kind of have to hope that these are recruitments that are going to be pretty open until the day they put pen to paper, because Oklahoma does have, especially for the offensive lineman, I think with Taylor Tatum you have less ground to make up because we are the closest school to him that he's taking an official visit to, and the one that he's visited the most, I believe, since his recruiting journey started. So that's definitely the one that you'd like OU's chances the most, but I would agree. This is all these guys. There's still a battle for, and Oklahoma just needs to put themselves in a position to win it at the end of the day when it comes to National Signing Day. That's all we got. Brandon, do you want to go ahead and do your end of video challenge?
Dropping another end of video? Shoot. Has anybody ever been to Mozambique? Just because talking about Jason, he moved there from. Has anybody ever been to Mozambique? That'll be the end of the video. I'm curious to see that one.
I don't think that many people have been there, given that we didn't have many people that went to Rhode Island. But who knows? I could be wrong.
Never know, bud.
All right. Well, we appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you liked the Danny interview. Appreciate it. And we will see you guys on Friday.
Yes, sir.